Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Coffey. I'm the Vice President of Jefferson Street Sound Museum. So we extend a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us for the Jefferson Street Sound Museum Legacy Series. And our guest this afternoon, I always say I'm his #1 fan. I love history, and he's definitely an historian. Extraordinary. The best in the whole world.
All right.
Dr.Learotha Williams, PhD professor of African American Studies, Civil War, Reconstruction. I'm missing one, right?
Public history.
Public history at Tennessee State University. So we are really excited to have you as our guest this afternoon. And that's all right, yeah. That's a lot of work to get all that, don't you think? Yeah. So we just want to welcome you to the museum, and on behalf of our founder, Mr. Lorenzo Washington, who makes all this possible. So thank you, Mr. Washington. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me to come. I was joking with Karen back in the room. I was like, I don't know if I'm old enough to be given a legacy of this. But I am honored, always honored, for the opportunity to be in this special, special place.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So without further ado, as they say, we're going to get started. We're going to delve into some questions. And what we like about the Legacy series is this is like a fireside chat. So it just stays very relaxed. But it gives individuals an opportunity to tell their story. So we don't wait until they've passed on and we make up stuff for them, right? Mm-hmm. This allows them to go ahead and tell their story. And this becomes part of our library here at the museum. So for future generations, they can hear it directly from the individual that's speaking. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to start with the first question. So I understand that you grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, right? So I was going to say, and growing up in Tallahassee, Florida, can you tell me a little bit about your family life and what was the racial climate like?
Okay. I feel like I'm resetting.
Okay.
I told somebody this earlier today, right?
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born in Tallahassee, on the campus of Florida A&M University. And I always end that by saying TSU hired me anyway, because I know how y'all feel about the Rattlers. Yeah. But I was born on campus and grew up in the shadow of the university. Mm-hmm. I can remember my father coming into our bedrooms at night, making us turn the TV off. Like, y'all boys turn the TV off because you got to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And what my brother and I would do is we would raise our window because we could hear the Marching 100 practicing, and they practice late into the night, right? And I didn't think about this much later until I was talking to my brother. I was like, wow, the university serenaded us every single night while we were children, and that's probably why we were one of the reasons we were so crazy about the university. I found that in Tallahassee, that school was just as important of an institution as the black church.
Yes.
And oftentimes, the two intersected. Sometimes the students from FAM would come to church, and they always were recognized soon as we hit the door. You're like, okay, you got some Rattlers in the house, and they would be taken to the front, and the pastor would always acknowledge them. Mm-hmm. And then if we were eating that Sunday, they'd always get the big piece of chicken, right?
Yeah, the best piece.
But I didn't realize it till much later how much of an impact that had on me. I grew up in University Park, down the street from campus, surrounded by professionals. And I didn't know they were professors or doctors or whatever. I didn't know at the time that these were important folks. By that same token, you had middle class living there. Mm-hmm. And folks that I would define as working class. Now, I'm not that old, right? Because Jim Crow, oh, my apologies. Jim Crow had ended before I was born, but you still saw whispers of it. So a lot of the things, especially when I interview people here in North Nashville and they talk about Jim Crow, there's something that's very familiar about these conversations to me. As educated in public schools, I was considered gifted, however you define that. But they put me in the gifted program, and I got kind of bored with it, so I stopped going in 10th grade. My mother was not happy at all about that. Had dreams being an athlete. Okay, I played football and baseball and ran track, and I can still, as I'm saying this, I'm hearing my dad's voice in the back of my mind saying, should have stuck with baseball. And I wanted to play football, but I was undersized and made a C in chemistry my 10th grade year. And that was devastating to my football career because my dad pulled me off the team immediately. Yeah. So that's kind of my upbringing. There's a lot of stuff we did as boys is not fit to be shared on this videotape.
Okay.
But I was a Williams in Tallahassee doing Williams things. Sometimes that was good, but sometimes kind of nefarious at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when I graduated high school, my fervent dream was to go to FAMU. I want to be a rattler. But I got an offer from the University of Florida. And in a lot of folks' mind, that was a bigger deal because Florida was the state. It was our premier institution. So it was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go. But then my dad came up to me. He's like, well, you stay in town, go to FAM, I'll buy you a new car. I'm like, bruh, if you said it. But I totaled that car. Not even 2 years later. And that was one of the most defining moments of my life in Tallahassee. Because the thing is, my dad had he looked at my car and told me that the tires were bald and I needed some new tires. And he's like, here goes some money, go get some tires. And I was gonna go get some tires, but we had a game that Friday. And I can remember going to pick up some of my friends, and my car was already, we were stacked in there like dirty clothes, man. I really didn't have room for nobody else, but we were in there and it started raining and my car hydroplaned into a telephone pole. And I mean, it wrapped around the pole, right? Nobody got a scratch with the exception of me. I got some scars on my hand, and I'll show y'all if you're interested. But I talked to my dad about everything afterwards, and he's like, well, I gave you the money, but you didn't go get the tires, and you almost killed everybody you love being hard-headed. And that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I can remember going to the grocery store. We had a grocery store back home called Winn-Dixie. I remember going in there, but they had a military recruiting place right next door. So the recruiter must have saw me being in a certain kind of way, and he called me over and asked me what was going on. I told him. He's like, well, you can finish your degree in college. I mean, you can finish your degree in the military. And mindful, y'all, I was in my junior year at FAMU when I'm hearing this. So I took the test, I did well on the test, and then boom, I'm getting ready to be inducted. I ain't tell my folks none of this until the last minute. And my dad still talks about it to this day, because they had invested a lot in me. I'm mindful of that. And finally, they let me go. And after I got out of basic training, I had a blast in the military. I got stationed in Germany. They would have left me in Germany. I'd still be in Germany right now.
So what intrigued you about Germany? Was it a freedom in Germany?
I was young with no responsibilities, and I had a check coming every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So just imagine all that
Yeah.
stuff that's going through the mind of a 22-year-old at the time he got money. So I bought a BMW, paid that off. My only other expenses was, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, Wednesday night at the NCO club, because that was R&B night at the NCO club. So out of all the expenses I had my car note. Then the only other thing I was spending money on was beer and pizza and stuff on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But we went to war, and I was deployed there. I'm sitting here as a professor, but I'm also a combat vet as well. And folks send you gifts in the military. Got a heck of a lot of fruitcakes. I remember that. And you're grateful somebody's sending you something, because you know nobody. And but someone sent me 2 books, the complete works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So for y'all Sherlock Holmes fans, I've read all of them. And as a matter of fact, I got the book in my office, and it still has Saudi Arabia dust on it. That dust thing coming out. But then the other book that was tucked away was W.E.B. Du Bois' Souls of Black Folks. And I read that first chapter, and I was like, man, I got to get out and do something else if I survive all of this.
Yeah.
So I survived and came back to Tallahassee and finished up college. My intent was to become a civil rights attorney. But the school that I had to offer from wasn't really giving me a whole lot of money. And then my history professor said, hey, if you pursue a degree here at Florida State, we got you.
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay, I kind of like history.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's how I got there. And I'll say this, I'll pull up and I'll let you ask another question. I graduated in 2003. I would have graduated in 2002, but my mother contracted breast cancer, and it metastasized everywhere, and she ultimately died from it. But it took me about a year to recover from that, but I finished in March of 2003. And on the day that I marched, I became the 16th person, the 16th black male in the history of Florida State University to own a PhD in history. 16. And that sounds good. And I can remember my friend who's at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, he was number 15.
Okay.
My other friend, Sean Comedy, he's a professor at Southern now. So they graduated 3 of us on that one day. And it sounds kind of cool when you think about it. FSU opened its doors in 1851. So what does that mean? That means that in all the while that school had been open, they only graduated 15 people before me. But all of us, Sean and Glenn and myself, we were very much committed to HBCU. So we said whatever we applied for, we was going to make sure that we applied for whatever jobs were out there for HBCUs. So I applied. Y'all know what Lane College is? Okay, I applied at Lane, North Carolina A&T, TSU, and Savannah State. And I ultimately got offers from all of them, but none of them worked out. So I ended up teaching at a PWI for about 5 years. Okay, I'll pull up there because I know you probably got another question for me.
No, I'm enjoying it.
Okay, I'll keep on.
Because we're keeping it very authentic, because I'm sure you haven't been sharing as much as you're sharing with us today.
Because I know we got limited time too.
But you get to share a lot, and I'm sure we all appreciate this
I was at a PWI, but I was only one of two black male professors there, right? And the school is about as big as TSU, so imagine how that was. I became the faculty advisor for most of the black organizations on campus. Man, I didn't have any business being involved with folks in lit or theater, because I'm a historian, but I did it because I needed to do it. But one group that I was the advisor for was the NAACP. And what I would do is I would take the dues down to the Savannah office, to the office of the NAACP president there, and that was Dr. Prince Jackson. Dr. Jackson was also former president of Savannah State University. And another thing, a lot of his research was used in the civil rights cases in Savannah. So you're dealing with a professional, man. I mean, Dr. Jackson was one of the original OGs, right?
Yeah.
And I would go in there and I would talk to him. And I was always real respected because I knew he was something, but I didn't know what that something was. So I just made sure when I went to Dr. Jackson's office, I'd be suited up. I'd have a tie on, and I'd be coming correct because I didn't want to disappoint this man as soon as I hit the door. And I'm counting the money out to him, and he says, "Well, Dr. Williams, what are your plans for Armstrong?" That was a professor at Armstrong Atlantic. What are your plans for Armstrong? Well, Dr. Jackson, I want to create a Black Studies program. And we did, me and some brilliant sisters in LLP, Language, Literature, and Philosophy. And I said, I want our student body to be more engaged in the community, right? Because at that time, Savannah's population was like 64% African American. And at our school, it was only like 25%. So that small percentage, I was like, okay, we gonna do this in a way so that when y'all are out there in Savannah, they're gonna immediately recognize y'all as Armstrong students. It'd been nice to say, okay, those are Dr. Williams students, but nonetheless, I wanted to do that. But then he said this. He's like, the school opened its doors in 1935 and black people could not attend it. And, but they could work there. And he said, you can imagine these workers working there and thinking that one day their kids might be able to go there. And one day their kids might be taught by a black professor. He said, you that black professor now that they were looking for in 1935. Don't you think you should use your skills or do something for those folks if they come to Armstrong, if they don't come to Armstrong, if they can't get in? Don't you think you should do something? So that changed the whole trajectory of my career for the better. Because in grad school, they teach you to write for other academics. And, you know, that's cool, but the praise that I got from, or the feelings that I got from just public face research carries more weight than the thumbs up from 30 academics, right? I'm telling y'all a bunch of stories, but this is one that figures prominently. I remember in my efforts to become more engaged, I would go to a lot of churches, just be where African Americans were. So that meant I was at the weddings, I was at the funerals, the choir meetings, and I got to know people. And I noticed that there was this one group that would always dress similarly. And I asked them what they were, and they said they were graduates from this high school during Jim Crow. Now those folks felt the same way that some of our elders around here feel about Pearl, but within a smaller context. And I was like, why don't y'all got a marker or something? They said that they couldn't ever get it approved. I was like, I know that the history part of it is worthy. So I wondered why I couldn't get through. And I looked at the people that made the decisions. I was like, okay, I know them, but they might not be appreciating this marker. Okay, I'm going to confess to something that I never confessed to, at least with a camera rolling. So I said, all right, y'all give me your information. They gave me the information, and I wrote a proposal for them. Then I joined the committee that makes the decision in terms of what would get a marker.
That's how you do it. You got the amen. That's how you do it.
And then it came through, and I listened to all the reasons not to do it. Then I tried to demonstrate that little bitty school that used to have, what is it? They talked about Triple H. Y'all know what that is? That little farmers thing that they had at schools. They had that. They talked about how the projects involved raising chickens from eggs. They would get eggs delivered to the school, and then they would raise chickens from them.
So it's like 4-H.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm
4-H.
talking about. And just the bonding that created.
Yes.
And I convinced them to, I like to think I had a lot with that marker getting approved. And also commented on how well written it was too. It's got a little bit of ego. But y'all, on the day that they unveil the marker, the guy pulls the thing back and he's reading those words that I struggled with over the weekend, because it's limited, right? You can't get out there and just throw out some manifesto. But as the guy starts reading, his voice starts crackling. I was like, oh wow, he's getting emotional. Then I looked at the lady that was next to me, and she was crying, and I was like, not boohoo crying, but I could see that she's feeling it. And I thought in that moment, I was like, wow, I'll probably never write something that moves as many people as this little thing has done today. And y'all, they come there every year, and I don't know, because I've been gone from Savannah since 2009. And I know that a lot of them have passed away, because the guy that asked me to do the marker for him, he recently passed away. But they would come there year after year after year, and that gives me a really great sense of pride that I contributed something that is moving people like that annually.
So it made a difference in their lives.
Yeah, because
all their efforts and what they did was not in vain. They were seen and appreciated.
And for them, the thing might have seemed impossible.
Yes.
But we made it happen. And it's funny, y'all, because they when I would meet with them, they would always talk about how they miss me, and I'd go back to my old church there, and my pastor would tell me, well, Doc, your name ain't never coming off the road here. I don't care.
I don't care where you go.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you how this connects to Nashville.
How'd you know that's my next question?
I read the paper before. All those lessons I had learned there, I brought here. Things didn't work out for me during that first go around when TSU offered me a position, but Dr. Bobby Levitt called me and said, would you be willing to take another look at TSU? I was like, I will, Doc, but I ain't the same professor I was in 2003, and I was on the verge of getting tenure. So it's one of those things, you ever apply for a job and you ain't got nothing to lose? So, okay, I said, okay, this is how much I want to be paid. Okay. I want support for research. And I asked for a couple other things. And they said yeah to everything. I didn't even have to give them the I'll think about it or nothing like that. So I ended up coming here, and And I knew about Jefferson Street. I knew about the Civil Rights Movement, but I didn't know the intimate details of it. So once I got here, this is when, have y'all ever been to the Gateway to Heritage Plaza down there, where the underpass is? That was the first major project I was involved in. I was responsible for the TSU stuff. So Kwame Lillard, who some of y'all may know, Kwame gave my class a tour of Jefferson Street. And you know, if y'all remember Kwame was real larger than life brother, but he didn't pull any punches. Kwame told me that he cussed out Robert Kennedy, the Attorney General of the United States, about a block away from where we were at. He was at the Snake headquarters, and he picked up the phone, and the guy on the other end says, "Yes, this is Attorney General Bobby Kennedy." And Kwame said, "This ain't no blanking Bobby Kennedy." I hung up on him. But Kwame told us the story of Jefferson Street, and so when we engage in these type of things, what I do is I'll get my students back, and we'll try to, just talk our way through what we saw. And we talked about Jefferson Street and its history. But one of my students asked this. He said, "What about those other streets? Don't the people on those streets have something to say about the community? How did they contribute to Jefferson Street?" And I was like, "You are right." So being a slick professor, I said, "Okay, I'm going to create something called the North Nashville Heritage Project. And we're going to find out together." So our first assignments was just to interview our elders to get these stories. And the thing was only supposed to last for a year. It's 2025 now. So how many y'all math
Still
folks
going
have
strong,
and it's funny too. And this is one of the things I learned too. And this is something that y'all are good at here. And I'm saying that looking at one of my students, Randall, over there, who's interning here. It's like, listen to the young folks to see if we can develop better ways to teach history. Ways to teach history that don't involve registering for a class at TSU. Not, I'm saying y'all register and send your kids there, right? But we might need to redefine what a classroom looks like. So this project began, and I had to figure out how to get people to trust me, because I love TSU because they took a chance on me. I think they got their money's worth, but they didn't really trust me coming from FAMU and being a rattler. I had to prove myself.
We're tigers.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'd hit. Y'all remember Mr. JT's barbershop up the street there? I'd go in there, and he was like, "Oh, here comes Tallahassee." I was going, "All right, I'm not here for no. I just want my little cut, and then laugh with y'all for a little bit and get on out of here." But then they started quizzing me about TSU, and I was up on the history, and then finally the big test, and I feel like they were hazing me in a little bit. They wanted to know if I knew the words to the alma mater.
Oh my goodness.
Right here, the only thing I know is "In the land of golden sunshine." That was it. But they let me know in no uncertain terms that I need to learn that song and be able to sing it with enthusiasm. Because I can remember saying, "Man, when I hear that song, it just does something to me. It makes me feel good inside." I like it too. But after that, I entered a space where they would open up to me. And I think my success here in North Nashville and Nashville in general, that I was able to speak to people that residents might have overlooked. It makes sense. I would speak to anybody, the marginalized folks, the folks that come into the barbershop and hair salon and trying to sell y'all stuff that they done
Goods.
got from Walgreens or whatever. and that helped me to I think create another view of this that had been overlooked before. So in this musical space that we're in, I don't want to say it's a new song, but it's another verse to the song that we're more all familiar with, if that makes sense. And I'm glad I'm here, even though a lot of stuff goes on in this city that infuriates me, and the erasure of the history and the marginalization of the history and the mistelling of the history, because a lot of times folks feel like some folks just making stuff up. So you know, I'm cognizant of where I'm at right now, and what y'all do and how it is critically important. And nobody can tell these stories like Mr. Washington can.
That's true. That's true. He's a good storyteller.
Yeah, and
Plus he was there.
Yeah,
That makes a
exactly.
big difference.
And then I wish, and I may just have to get one of the feather off of one of his nice hats so that I can just have a portion of the charisma that he had. Because if I had that kind of energy you got over at TSU, that'd be something else. But I'll close just by saying this. You know, it's my fervent desire for the history to be taught, and I realize that there's a limited number of people that I can meet over the course of a semester. On any good day, y'all can double those numbers in one day. Somebody pull up here with a bus full of people, and boom, 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 the story is out there. So we need that. We need to engage our youth and get some of their energy and ideas. I remember when we was first working on the North Nashville Heritage Project, I was trying to figure out, and I'm talking to my students, trying to figure out how to get the word out there. And a young lady says, Dr. Williams, why don't you go on Facebook? All the old folks hanging out on Facebook. I was like, well, what are you trying to say exactly? But I took her advice and created a page, and people began reaching out to me. I can remember doing a homecoming. These sisters who lived on 17th Avenue North, right across the street from Jubilee Hall, were talking to me about growing up there, and they said that they used to sneak into the basement of Jubilee Hall. And I said, do what? And he said, and play. And I thought about it. It was like, wow, because, you know, young girls oftentimes fancy themselves to be, what's the plural word for a princess? Princesses?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. And they might have their dads buy them a dollhouse or something. Imagine having Jubilee Hall as your dollhouse and those types of memories. I learned the history of the civil rights movement, but the stories that I listened to animated that in ways that I cannot in the classroom. I think it was either Mr. Lorenzo or Ed Kendall who told me that story about Ray Charles driving down Jefferson Street.
The bus.
Yeah. Or Mr. Tom. I can't remember Mr. Tom's last name, but he told me about the time he saw Tina Turner sitting on the corner of it was 18th and Jefferson at the time, right across the street, because the Ritz was right there.
Right there.
And I knew Mr. Tom because he always, you know, there was a beautician shop in the back. He always had something to say to folks going back. And I was like, Mr. Tom, was she as good looking as they made out as a young lady? And he said, yeah, man. And I was like, I know you said something to her. And he said, nah, man, because Ike was there.
Oh, yeah.
So those type of stories. I remember Jesse Fanroy. His daddy was the coal and ice man for Jefferson, for North Nashville. And he talked to me about 12th Avenue North and what it used to look like before the interstate, right? And he talked about doctors and lawyers and all kind of folks living up in there. But if y'all get a chance, go by 12th when you leave here. And if you make that right off Jefferson and go down the street and you look to the left, you ain't gonna see nothing but a chain link fence and highway. And for me, what that, wow, it's a very stark reminder of the devastation of I-40 coming through here. Because not only the people are gone, but the built environment is gone. So it's almost as though they erased them,
a community, yeah,
off the planet Earth. And in these stories we have, because I know some of those folks ended up in Bordeaux, like Mr. Fanroy.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are taking their stories with them to Greenwood Cemetery now. We are lowering those stories in the ground. So all that is to say this, to get back to the importance of this space. We need to harvest these stories, right? We need to archive these stories, and more importantly, we need to tell these stories. I'll do the best that I can from TSU, but this type of space, it's a museum, but it's also a monument. I submit to you that it's a monument of our transition from enslaved people to free persons. So these stones, these bricks, these photos have the spirit of our people residing in them. So it's critical that we take care of them.
So, what was the inspiration to write your publication, I'll Take You There, Exploring Nashville's Social Justice System? What was the inspiration?
I was over here in North Nashville doing my thing, but it had a straight up history gaze to it. But I was invited to speak on a panel at Jubilee Hall.
Okay.
And on that panel, it had a woman who was a social worker. And we're on the same panel. I didn't know it because she was a graduate student at Vanderbilt. And I got there, and I got so caught up in that space because my professor, Joey Richardson, came to Fisk in 1966 to learn how to teach Black history. So I'm sitting there thinking of Joe. I'm thinking of the Jubilee singers, and how Jubilee was representative of the fact that no one was ever supposed to be personally enslaved. If you go to the Bible, look at the 25th chapter of Leviticus, where it talks about the year of Jubilee.
The year of Jubilee.
Supposed to free the bondsman in 50 years, right? And forgive all debts in 50 years. So I'm sitting up there getting caught up, and then someone elbows me and say, Lee, you're supposed to go to the podium. They already introduced you.
You did get caught up.
Yeah. None of them easy to get caught up like that. But I spoke to, the woman's name was Ami Thurber. And she was kind of doing the same thing that I was doing, but Ami, as a social worker, she was looking at social issues so much. So we met as a group at Vanderbilt, and then we collaborated, and then after many cups of coffee, we decided we was going to tell the story of Nashville, but we was going to let the people tell their stories. So for a historian, what that required me to do was to go to parts of the city that I hadn't even visited. Right? You know, there were some places that I knew because I live in Hermitage. I work in North Nashville. I do considerable research on fried fish sandwiches.
Is that Ed's by chance?
I don't know. They got to collect some more data, but there's Ed's and TJ's and White's and
White's was so good.
Yeah, and they gave you a lot too.
A lot. Yeah.
But I was real serious about that project. But there was other places that I hadn't really visited because I knew nothing really about Belmead other than I would never be able to afford to live there, not at my current job. So we decided to get with folks in the community. And this is an important part of it too. We looked for people that when the person thought of Nashville, they wouldn't think of these people. And we tried to look at them through the eyes of social justice. And that's how that book came out. And I think the publisher told me that it was one of their best-selling titles ever. And that is, for me, that's insane, but it makes sense because it's a book about Nashville, by Nashville. And let me give you an example of one of my favorite and worst stories from I'll Take You There. What was the young girl's name? Her name was Tara. I can't remember her name, but she was a young woman who came through Nashville. She fell on hard times. She was having some mental issues that she was trying to work her way through. And she couldn't find a place to stay, so she fell asleep on a bench near the river. And some guys from Clarksville who had came to a club, they saw her sleeping there and they pushed her in the river and she drowned. Y'all remember that story? Tara Cole was her name. And the city of Nashville reacted to this by talking about how terrible it was. So they put a bench up in her memory right there on the river, the Tara Cole bench. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of y'all know where that bench is? All of y'all have seen it if you've been downtown. If you go to, you know where the Hard Rock Cafe is, and you got the Acme place there, and it's that red light that holds you too long. That bench sits right across the street. It's right there in plain sight, so you see it, but you don't see it because you don't know what you're looking at or looking for or recognize it.
But it's in plain sight.
Yeah, and it's very much representative of our underhoused population in the city, I think. You see them, but you don't see them. So those were the type of stories we were trying to amplify. And all of this is going on, and you know, sometimes stuff just aligns, and you don't have any control over it. All of this came out right about the time when Nashville was proclaimed to be a it city. And we talked about 100 people for this book. And for them, the city was not the it city. But I think, and another really important part of this book was it gave people a chance to raise their voices about their communities and events in the city. Kwame wrote several pieces for this, but he writes an essay that talks about, I want to say it was the Freedom Rides. And after we finished the book, found that Kwame hadn't written for any other academic press ever. And the Civil Rights Movement was 60 years ago, so how do you explain that omission? We elaborated on stories that people thought they knew, but turns out they really didn't know. I was able to go to the, I know y'all probably don't know where this is, the Salah ad-Din Center. It's a Muslim mosque that's off Nolensville Pike.
By the fairground.
It's not too far from the zoo. Not too far from the zoo.
Okay, that one. Okay.
Yeah. I was able to go there and to get a vibe for that place. And they were kind of worrying about what is this dude doing walking around with his camera in front of our place, because this is a time where Middle Tennessee was exemplifying a hatred for Muslims. But that book, I'm really proud of that for the simple fact that it gave voice to a group of people who might not be known. And it's cool because I, every first year law student at Vanderbilt University Law is required to read that text. So they get an introduction to Nashville that no students in Vanderbilt's history has gotten.
Exposed to.
Yeah.
That's an excellent book. I think we have it in the museum library.
All right, now you don't know how good that makes me feel, man. Any of my stuff show up in here, y'all can't tell me nothing.
There we go. So this is part statement, part question. So regarding Jefferson Street in North Nashville, and I'm speaking from what I feel. Okay. I feel that I-40 created evacuees within our own city. Community members were bulldozed out of their businesses and homes and disproportionately devastated the community. The federal and local government lacked humanity to provide appropriate notifications, financial buyouts, and the resources to relocate. There were no teams of caseworkers to assist families and business owners that were traumatized, displaced, desperate, and neglected. There was no lifeline to help in relocating. So you know that this is a long thought, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So 60 years have passed since I-40 disrupted the thriving historic Jefferson Street. The displacement left a negative impact on the community. Even after I-40, there is no intentional plan to spend significant money to increase black businesses in housing on historic Jefferson Street. And I'm saying not zero funds. I'm saying significant money
Right.
to increase black businesses. How do you feel about that?
It's a story that we heard in other places, but this one for me is personal, right? Because I've sat down and I talked to people about how things was in the past and what we have now. Neighborhoods and communities, they have life cycles just like people do, right? They're born, they reach adolescence, they mature, and then some die, or they might become something else. In the best of all circumstances, the residents of the community will decide whether or not it dies or whether or not what this something else is going to look like. We didn't have that opportunity here. Because when the interstate came through, Avon Williams and the steering committee told them exactly what was going to happen. And sure enough, it did. And you know, I've read all of the arguments about how, you know, this place would be invested in, and how steps would be taken to keep the community in place. It's like anything else when you look at politics. You say, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. For Jefferson Street, you know, you have 30 some odd years where it was really popping.
It was in its heyday, the Black Wall Street.
Yeah. And before that, because you know, before that it would have been Cedar Street or Charlotte Street. After the Civil War ended, that's where you would find all of that. But Jefferson Street rises and it becomes one of the marvels of America as a result of who was here. Because you have Fisk that's there in 1866, right? TSU shows up in 1912, and Meharry they began setting up around 1928. So you have a moneyed class of black folks that are coming here, and you got some money in your pocket, and you can pay for things, goods, services, some of the stuff you want. But if you go downtown, you're gonna get disrespected, and if you got a short temper, then it might cost you your life or your family's well-being. So you had to create something so that we wouldn't be Jim Crow to death. That makes sense? So that we could go someplace and buy a dress with dignity, where I can go to a drugstore and just pick up a couple of aspirins and not worry about being disrespected or ignored. That lasts for about 30 years. And then the interstate, there's a plan, you know, once the war ends, the Interstate Highway Act. So Nashville, like most other places, they say, okay, we're going to run an interstate through it for urban renewal, whatever you want to call it. But the thing that makes this place peculiar is that that interstate intersects this community in two places. You got 12th Avenue North, and then you got about 27th where Del Morocco was. Those businesses are moved, which means, and then the people are moved away, and then that means that the businesses are going to suffer. So that's a severe trauma that occurs in the 1960s, and we're mindful that, you know, you could die a couple of ways. Okay, you try to cross Jefferson Street right now, and you're not, and one of those cars could take you out. Also, there's a slow death, a gradual death. I mean, you ingest a poison or something that don't quite kill you, or you can get sick with cancer, and that takes a while for you to leave here. That's what we are experiencing now. Now, your original question is how I feel about it. You know, I hate it. You can, somewhere out there in the universe, there's an interview News Channel 5 did with me, and I was really on it that day, and I was like, well, Jefferson Street is not going to look like this 5 years from now. A lot of time when I try to predict the future, I'm wrong, but I was not wrong this time, because it doesn't look nothing like I remember it looking when I first got here. But it's on its way to becoming something else, and I don't think we have enough say in the process. What is it going to become, and who is it becoming something else for? I think that's critical as well. and it might be replaced by Buchanan Street. There's a lot of businesses there that are doing all right. But Jefferson Street, and I say this in all sincerity, if we look at it as just a business space, we're doing it a disservice because the history is far, far richer than that. That silent march that y'all have heard about with Diane Nash and Bernard Lafayette and C.T. Vivian, that took place on
Right here.
this street and several other marches. W.E.B. Du Bois was educated right over there at Fisk. D.B. Todd performs open heart surgery on the Strip. So I need y'all to think about the street and North Nashville in this way. North Nashville and Jefferson Street is a stage upon which one of the greatest dramas in this country's history took place. It's a place where, you come to Jefferson Street, you learn new dances so you can tap your feet and clap your hands. But it's also a space where young people Randall's age, challenged America to redefine democracy. Okay. We see how democracy has been practiced in the past. That ain't working. Let's do something else. And this space celebrates how music played a role in this. Because these songs that these brothers and sisters sing, they became the anthems in many ways of this moment in change.
That's right.
So,
And this house had a front row seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think if we move in that direction, not eschewing the businesses, but glorifying the businesses as well, but remembering that politically and intellectually, this space played a dramatic role in world history.
World history. It did. This has been great. Oh, we're right on time, aren't we? So can I take 1 minute? Does anybody have a question from the audience?
Your speeches. Okay.
Mr. Washington?
Dr. Williams, back when I first came over here with the museum, you were one of the first professors from any of the colleges to come and have conversation with me about starting this museum. And I wanted to know what caused you to step your foot into this building for the first time.
That's going back now.
I remember when you was passing out those rat cards of the tree.
The tree, yeah.
In JT's barbershop.
Right, right.
And I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it at first, because at the barbershop, people are always passing out stuff. But I looked at it, when I had a chance to look at it, I was like, this man is up to something. And I didn't have a whole lot of friends at the time anyway. Still don't, but I'm a real... if I call you my friend, you're a solid person, right? And so I came over here to talk to you, and I can remember you telling the stories, in a way that I hadn't heard it before. Because I don't know if y'all pay attention to Mr. Washington's tours. Right before he getting ready to tell you something amazing in his eye, he gets a little twinkle in his eye, and then he hits you with it. So, you by yourself, and I was really intrigued that even though you were out there in the wilderness, so to speak, working by yourself. You were pushing on anyway. So I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be a professor of African American history at a historically black university and see a guy that ain't even 5 blocks up the road from me working on history and not say, what can I do for you? So I'll be honest, I got the best end out of the arrangement, because every time I come here, I leave here in a better mood, right? Even better human being in many ways. There's a lot of positive energy in this space. Because I remember when you were working on Jackie Shane, that and how she was out of sorts and you were helping her. That revealed to me that you were not only a smart man, but a very, very kind man. And I couldn't think of a better steward for this magnificent history than you and what you have here. Talk about you in class a lot, right? And I remember it was this week I told the students, I was like, y'all go down there and you take a picture with Mr. Washington. And it's gonna be a good picture. I've never seen anybody take a bad picture with him. And y'all think I'm lying, go look at those photographs online. I defy you to find one where the picture is not just glowing. I got one on my phone that I look at from time to time when I ain't feeling like myself. But yeah. But I saw that you needed some help, and there ain't but a couple of folks in Nashville that do what I do, and I'm saying it in all humility, right? There ain't that many of us out there, so felt kind of obligated to help you out.
Well, it's been a good partnership.
Yeah, I'm still appreciative because he's still bringing interns to the museum.
Yes.
So that says a lot to me.
Okay. You know, try to have at least one down here every semester as long as I'm employed by the university.
That's wonderful. So listen, I want to say thank you
Thank you.
for joining us. It's a pleasure. I'm so glad you're one of our board members too. You're always there for us for the gala.
Yeah.
It's a big thank you.
Yeah,
And thank all of you for coming. Thank you so much.